This video is an introduction to using the Guides for Equitable and Actionable Resilience tool, also known as GEAR. GEAR was developed to support the Massachusetts Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness 2.0 grant program. Throughout the MVP 2.0 planning process, you'll reference GEAR many times. It is meant to help develop actionable steps towards community resilience. To do this, it provides available geospatial data, guiding questions, case studies, and other helpful materials that support identifying sources of vulnerability as well as assets in your community. If you're exploring GEAR outside of the 2.0 planning process, welcome. The tool can be useful for any person or group interested in responding to the challenges of climate change in an impactful and equitable way. This is the GEAR homepage. The tool gets updated with feedback from users, and more guides will be added over time, so please bookmark this page and come back. You can access GEAR through the MVP 2.0 landing page via mass.gov, and you can also access it through the Tools and Data tab of the Resilient Mass homepage. On the upper right of your screen, you'll see an option to translate GEAR to over 100 different languages. The main feature of GEAR is a series of guides that help you explore the intersection of community systems, like housing and economy, with climate hazards, like heat and inland flooding. You can create some combinations and access these guides from the homepage. There's also a community guide that's a bit different. The community guide is about understanding the people and relationships in your community. Without a strong sense of the people and networks in your community, it's hard to understand how different climate hazards will impact different community systems. The community guide will be a central part of the MVP 2.0 process, particularly in the Uncovering Social Resilience step. You can access the community guide from this button at the top section of the homepage. Let's click to understand what each guide contains. Each guide provides background, definitions, key resources, and other information relevant to the guide topic. Then, each guide helps you explore what the topic means in your community with some questions to answer. Tap the arrow located to the right of each question to reveal the guiding content. You'll see that answering the questions may require reviewing map data to start, but it's also important to tap into local knowledge. GEAR will prompt you to think about how to work collaboratively with people and organizations that can speak to their firsthand experience with the given topic. The Investigate GEAR Map Data Layers section provides a link to an interactive map illustrating data about the people in your community. We'll dig into the GEAR maps more momentarily, but you can see that the community guide will link you to a map that contains data specifically related to the people in your community, such as household incomes, levels of computer access and internet access, and access to a personal vehicle, among many others. As part of MVP 2.0's focus on moving from planning to action, each guide also contains example actions to consider and case studies of past MVP projects. Now that we've skimmed the community guide, let's generate a guide that explores a combination of factors by selecting a community system and one of the available climate hazards. Let's select housing. We can see that heat and inland flooding are available guides. I'll select heat and click Generate Guide. At the top of the page are 3 navigation buttons. They allow you to return to the GEAR homepage to generate a different guide, share this guide with others, or print this guide to a PDF. The overview section describes the interaction of the community system and climate hazard at hand, with specific data and information on the impacts. In this overview, we learn that the number of days over 90 degrees Fahrenheit is increasing, with significant implications for our housing systems. Scroll down to review the questions to answer. These questions are designed to address who and what are most vulnerable and where they are located. Each questions to answer section has a link to a worksheet that can be used to take notes on the topic and what actions you may be interested in pursuing for the topic area. The text in the gray box below each question includes guiding content to consider for the topic. Some questions require investigation of the data on the gear map or other tools, while others ask you about your community's local knowledge and expertise. In the example here, you're directed to open the gear map and review how housing layers overlap with heat data. You can access the gear maps either from the links in the questions text box or by scrolling down to the Investigate Gear Map Data Layers section and clicking on the map image on the left. The list of layers on the right of this section are a selection of the data layers referenced in the guide. You can read the short description or click the links if you're curious to learn more about where the data comes from or how it was created. Let's click the image to open the housing and heat map. If you have used the gear maps in the past, you may notice that it appears slightly different. We have made some changes based on user feedback during the MVP 2.0 pilot round. On the left, you'll see that you're viewing the housing map. The layers contained in each map will be noted in this panel on the right. This layer list contains only the layers mentioned in the housing and heat guided exercises. You can click this link to see all of the layers included for the housing community system. Let's learn how to use the map through the process of exploring where hotspots are relative to areas with high concentrations of renters. To begin, select a municipality in the upper left, or use your mouse scroller or the zoom buttons to center on your area of interest. You also have the option to search for a location by clicking on the magnifying glass in the top right corner of the map. If you click the Home button, it will return you to this statewide view. Let's use Pittsfield for this demonstration. Some layers are grouped together. You can see the layers included in the group by pressing this side arrow button so that it faces down. If the layer is not checked, the data is not being displayed on the map. It is important to note that for a layer group, the layer group and the individual layer you want to view must be checked on. If a layer is grayed out, it is not visible at the current scale and you must zoom in or out for the features to become visible on the map. We'll turn on the Hotspots and Rental Housing Units layers. Hotspots is located within the Climate Hazard Data Group. Rental Housing Units is located under EJ and other priority populations. In the top right of the layer list, click over to the legend to see which layers you have activated and what kind of data they contain. Hotspots delineate specific geographic areas, whereas rental housing units displays data as a percentage per census tract. Areas in orange are hotspots, showing areas that experience temperatures within the top 5% compared to surrounding areas within the same regional planning agency. Some of the hottest areas of Pittsfield overlap with the dark green areas, which signify where over a quarter of the housing is renter occupied. Renters may have more challenges than owners when it comes to modifying their homes, such as limitations on air conditioning units. With these layers turned on, we can examine the map to see where regions with high concentrations of renters experience especially high urban heat island effects. Click Features on the map to see a pop-up with more detailed information. This gives the specific percentage of rental housing units in the census tract and links to the source of information. In places where layers overlap, use the arrows in the bottom left corner to toggle between information for each feature. Back in the layer list, click the three dots to the right of a layer for display options, such as increasing or decreasing transparency. Because they shade the whole census tract, it is best to view the EJ and other priority populations layers one at a time and layer climate and other community information over it. You can always toggle a layer on and off to see the other layers or the base map more clearly. You can change the base map by clicking this button with 4 small map icons. The satellite imagery allows for close examination of familiar features, while the MassGIS topographic base map makes it easier to see streets and roads, as well as the names of sites like parks and airports. Isn't it interesting that some of the cooler parts of Pittsfield are located near parks and bodies of water? To learn more about how natural ecosystems help keep areas cool, check out the Ecosystems and Heat Guide after you finish watching this video. Another important thing to note is that you can view maps for the different community systems by clicking the tabs under Select a Map. If you selected a municipality from the drop-down, the map view will stay zoomed into your focus area when you switch to a different map. You'll explore these other maps when you review the other gear guides. This new version of the gear maps has some added functionality. You can use the Guides tool to go to a map and layer list that corresponds to each gear guide. Another new feature is the ability to add your own data. This allows you to add local information that may be unavailable or less detailed at the statewide level. Use data from your organization or the Living Atlas, add a publicly available web service, or upload a zipped file containing a shapefile. I'll add a layer here for Mass Historic Commission areas from MassGIS. The layer will be added to all maps and will appear at the top of the layer list. Let's go back to the guide and view a guided exploration for question 2. This question includes sub-questions that would require community-level input. To answer them, you may engage with some local organizations, municipal staff, community liaisons, and others. As with the community guide, the questions throughout GEAR are designed to get you thinking about what your community's primary strengths and challenges are. With those in mind, you can scroll to the end of the guide where you'll find the actions to consider and can also explore MVP projects. These can be a useful reference for community engagement, articulating resilience priorities, developing a seed project for MVP 2.0, or developing action grants. At the bottom of each Actions to Consider section, selecting the Browse All Actions button will open a new page listing all the actions developed for GEAR. Here you can search actions by title, keywords, or guide factors, like community systems or climate hazards. At the bottom of the guide is also an option to review related guides. You can choose to explore one of those, or click the back button on your browser or home button at the top of the page to return to the GEAR homepage to generate an entirely new guide. Thanks for your commitment to building equitable community resilience. Happy exploring!